I was
What?
just using my Satan voice, which I hope you didn't hear, but all the cats just like shot 20 feet away. Um, uh, um, okay, so I thought that in spaces, we no longer had listeners who were not signed into Twitter. And so we no longer had the possibility of being recorded by anyone we couldn't see in here. And yet, recordings of us are going up every other day or every day by the two people who are doing it. And so they're not in the spaces when those recordings are being made visually. So is that false information?
Correct. It's false.
Well, it is true we no longer have anonymous listeners at the bottom of these spaces, correct?
No, I
That
think I
means
saw one earlier. I saw one
There
earlier
was one
today.
earlier
we
here.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
We do still have them?
Yep. There was one here earlier.
Oh, fuck.
But I
I
haven't
really
read it
think
for
it
ages.
has a chilling effect on all the work that could be done in spaces. I really wish they would allow that. Private spaces. So much good could be done here.
Yeah, and
And
oh, on that point, Jane, I'm not getting notification for when you have your Jitsi uh, spaces. Thank you very much. I feel left out now. Just thought I'd mention that. Sorry, carry on, Jazz.
God, I knew you were. I thought I got away with it for 3 hours. I thought, oh my God, because I mentioned it last week. I've been doing it for about 4 weeks now, and I post an invite to individual people that I feel that I know enough to trust, who doesn't, who don't agree with this voyeurism. I call it. People, I guess, are free to do whatever it is. So, in terms of maybe some of the tougher, controversial subjects and the tougher views on controversial subjects, I have DM'd individuals who I know won't abuse that and won't be recording the conversation on their own device. And there's been a few humdingers, as we would say in Britland, of topics. So there have been some serious views out there. When I see the type of views, I mean, things like what? Oh, you're not going to like this, Jasmel. So there you are. There's a precursor. What should happen to those who commit serious sexual assault? Really. So the topic has remained on topic. People know how I conduct things and all the rest of it. And there's been some views on there which people can express, really, that they feel more comfortable expressing without being recording. I think people should have that right, sort of thing.
why do you think that topic would bother me?
Because it's like the majority of sexual assault is committed by men, etc.
Well, of course it is. Why would that? I think you mistake me, perhaps. I'm just a realist. So that wouldn't upset me. I mean, it's just what's true. Like, no, I wouldn't. Why would I be upset that you're discussing the best punishment, most efficacious for sexual assault because it affects men the most because they engage in most of it? That wouldn't bother me. I mean, why would that bother me? Hmm. Oh, because it's like anti-men, you think? To me?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you've been
Oh,
you've
that
been
didn't even
you've
occur
been
to me. Huh. Well, if they do it the most, then fuck them. I mean, why? No, I'm not like blinded by. No,
Blinded by man love.
oh, you love
no.
the men.
Yeah, I'm middle aged. A lot of my flirty instincts are pretty well dead and gone. Other than appreciating plumbers and electricians. It's interesting that you would think that would bother me. Hmm. All right. So, bottom line, we're still getting recorded just as much as we were before. But huh, I stopped looking for other listeners at the bottom because I didn't think we had them anymore. People on here come from all different areas of the world. Assuming that it's okay to say really intense vulgarity is incredibly forward. It's just not rational to think that that's okay. It's not. It's not like somebody's saying the word shit or something every hour. Saying the C word or the F word, that's intense. And I've been in spaces where they're talking like that or worse every sentence or every other sentence. I just can't be in those spaces. There's no excuse for that behavior. And
Yeah,
so,
I mean, to be honest with you, I think there's a time and a place. So it depends what type of space. If it's quite sort of a serious subject, or we're talking in sort of, more about, um, talking to politicians or whatever else. If it's a very serious space and we're discussing a serious issue, whereas if it's just kind of like a get together and a chat, it doesn't bother me either. But my mummy always taught me there's a time and a place for everything, including language.
what I don't understand is so many people on here say, oh, well, that's normal for me. That's not what etiquette is. That's not what civility is. Civility isn't, are you comfortable? It's ensuring that everyone else is without asking them.
Yeah, I'm still never going to have a problem with it, just because
I'm not
it's
asking you to change your opinion. I'm not asking you to change your opinion. But your opinion is not what I was asking for. That's what you keep missing. Everybody's talking about
no, no, no,
no.
no. What
We're not-
you're missing is some people grow up with that language there, and that's my what's his name with it. Why I'll always kind of like leave that open. Yeah, and it's not that I would leave that door wide open, around my family. All the, it's not like I had people in my home coming and effing and blinding in front of my kids. But in this place where people often come for all sorts of different reasons, it's it's something people are free to do if they so choose. But more often than not, there's been virtually no swearing this evening, particularly. But
No,
often
I
there's
wasn't
not.
talking about this space. I was talking to Belfast about why we've been having trouble finding other spaces than our usual people to be with. That was the conversation. There's really gross spaces out there where they're constantly laughing and joking and talking about women's bodies and everything else. And it's just like, it's just grotesque. And I totally disagree with you, Spiky. If certain people have grown up in certain areas that are rougher and use rough language, no, everybody else doesn't have to say, oh, let's be nice to them and let them continue to act that way. No, that's
But
what's led us
but
where we are.
but still, it's sometimes you have to get to know people. People have to get to know you. They'll feel their way around the room and they'll get to where they're going to get to. Oh, hi, Fanny.
Hello, my dears. I was just going to say that, yeah, the swearing room doesn't really bother me too much. Depends how it is, because I do know people who, in here swear a lot, but they're good people. But the thing that I notice and I don't like at all is the rooms where what Belfast was saying, the kind of like dirty talk, the sex talk, and really because. As we know, as I come to see more and more, like I just hate the thought of like these guys getting off on it.
Yeah. What I was going to say is, and it's probably not practical, but I think it's worth it to just put it out there. There's a reason that we get vetted for certain groups. I'm a part of a few groups, and I've had to meet women online or in person to tell them who I am. They've looked me up. They've, found out who I am, even if I'm legit. And I'm not saying that our spaces are to such a degree, part of the reason that we like spaces so much is because what Carol was saying earlier, that you can come here for a breath of out of it. You can't talk about it 24/7, but it's nice to talk with women who still are like-minded about that issue. And it would be hard to vet women here, because people can listen in at the bottom or whatever. And we also like to think that, women that show up at the bottom that we haven't seen before might be somebody new and we want to welcome them in. But like at the same time, I don't know, I struggle with the idea that you could be in a space with everybody, but yet you're like, and Amanda, I get it with you. Like, I saw that happen in real time with you, so it's different. Like, that's a different thing, and it's a terrible thing what happened to you, awful. And the fact that it was, you know, women that you thought were your friend, yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, but even when you're talking about organised groups, right? And I haven't even spoken about this, but I was part of the Women's Rights Network, and I had all these passwords or whatever it was I was supposed to be doing, you know, and I was very trusted, and I love those women that run that, right? And I will never say anything bad about them. But one of the women that was stalking me and doing her shit was also in that group, and she didn't turn up to anything. She didn't message on the, you know, the DMs. She basically did nothing. Her profile was just basically sitting in there, and the worst thing is, it was me that vouched for her to come in because I didn't know she was a cunt. So, but what then happened was, the rules are, if you're in the Women's Rights Network, and I don't know if it's the same for other networks, right? Which I totally agree with. You can't block anyone, obviously, that's in the group, because we're all supposed to be fighting for the same thing. So I couldn't block this woman at all, even though I was doing things for the Women's Rights Network. I was going to the stuff. I was fucking, you know, putting myself out there, doing the fucking, putting my stupid, ugly, big face in the paper, which then alerts my whole fucking village and people that might not know that I was a fucking in jail. And this little avatar was sitting there the whole time. So but this woman was also following me into every single space, recording stuff, sitting as a listener on her own account, just to be a cunt. And I couldn't stop it because I wasn't allowed to block her, right? So I couldn't stop this woman stalking me and fucking terrorising me because I was in this Women's Rights Network. So the only thing that I could do was to leave, because when I spoke to them about it, I didn't go into any big detail. I just was like, you know, they were asking, why have you not been as active, why are you not doing this? And I'm just like, look, I don't feel comfortable. There's a fucking person in here that's literally stalking me. I feel terrible because I'm the person that's brought her in, but she's never once, you know, done anything. And because of their rules, this is what I mean. So when it comes to rules, oh, well, you know, you can't block anyone, and you know, we don't have any reason to, you know, to get rid of her, right? And I'm not the kind of person to say, well, let's have a Zoom and I'll tell you why. I was just like, cool, that's your, you know, that's your policies, that's your procedures. And also, I don't want to fucking make a big deal about it. Like, I just didn't want her to be there. So I ended up having to leave that Women's Rights Network because I had to block this woman anyway, right? Because I genuinely don't care. But if, you know, yous women are having these spaces and yous are really, you know, yous are really annoyed about it, and you want to make sure that they're safe and all this sort of stuff. So I'm just saying, well, that's now another person that said they were told not to follow me. So I'm just kind of saying, like, is there maybe somebody in the mix that's being a little cunt as well?
Can I just say to Amanda, to everybody here, I've never been told by anybody about anybody else as far as, oh, don't follow her or don't, like, I've just never had that happen to me. I don't know if that's unique, if other women have had that, but I honestly have never, ever encountered that.